Welcome back to another episode of Oceans Apart. It is Sunday evening. Good evening to everyone over there. And we are here together with Batman and me, Artem. So, Batman, how are you?
You know what? I'm great. I just want to say that I've had this hat for years, and it was International Batman Day a few days ago, I think. So, yeah, and I just, look, I've been made aware that Bill Hartman owns this hat, and look, I've finally beaten Bill Hartman in something. Like I've worn, I've had this hat for probably longer than he has, I hope. So I win. I'm not nearly as smart as that guy is, but I still win. It's something. So
Honestly, I had to look it up. Like, I thought you were lying about, Batman Day being like a few days ago, but you weren't bullshitting.
yeah,
It was actually like, I think Monday this week, September
boom,
15th.
boom.
Yeah, Monday.
You're welcome.
No, last Sunday. My bad. But yeah, you get my point.
Either way, doesn't matter.
Well, it's nice to have you, Batman.
You
You
know
know.
what?
Uh,
I don't know. How's your love life?
no, my love life is non-existing. But on a different topic. Oh my god. Okay, I'm gonna put my phone in airplane mode so this
God,
doesn't.
every single
I
episode
know
we've ever
every
done.
single episode this happens. Like there's always someone, and like the one who was it now, it's always the one and only the wife. Hi, wife. But I don't even think she even looks at this. But like, yeah.
Well, speaking of wives, we can just knock one of the questions we were asked right out of the way. Abby Hoffner, we're not going to talk about you. All right? Goodbye.
Well, that was pretty fast.
Done.
Boom.
Second question. I don't even remember what the second question was.
Well, let's just start off with weight cuts, I guess.
Okay, we'll start off with weight cuts. This comes to us from the almighty manlet, Eric Hogan. Weight cuts. I don't think you should cut any weight. It's really dumb. Boom. Next
Wait,
question.
is this like specifically to Eric Hogan or like just people in general?
People in general, because every powerlifter is like, I gotta cut weight, man. Like, no, you don't have to cut any weight. Actually, it removes a huge performance variable for you if you don't have to cut weight.
True,
Like,
but
seriously.
don't you feel like if they do cut weight at like long term, they might optimize their performance, like or
Not cutting weight. If you're losing weight, then yeah.
okay.
So here's the thing, right? If you cut weight, then you're gonna lose muscle with that. But if you lose weight slowly over time, I think the upper limit is about 2 pounds a week. Then you shouldn't hypothetically lose nearly as much muscle as you would if you were just straight cutting weight.
Mm. Yeah,
Um,
that's a good point.
yeah, so like even if you're like in a combat sport, I think you should just try to live like closer to the weight you actually are gonna be fighting at or competing at or whatever,
Yeah, yeah,
and then just like do that.
yeah.
Um, because so like a few things, it's kind of cool, right? Like what happens when you cut weight. So what the fuck is that? Just a bug just flew right by. Sorry. Anyways, a so muscle actually becomes like much more metabolically efficient at contracting after you've lost a bunch of weight. Um, I don't remember how much weight was lost in the study that I read about this, but I think it was like 10 pounds. So it's a pretty significant amount of weight, but like at the same time, you increase muscle efficiency.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you increase muscle force or contractile ability. You just increase like muscle efficiency. So there's not as much byproduct building up.
Mm.
So like there's a plus side to it, but there's also just not really a huge upside to losing all that weight, especially if you're not going to set a world record in the weight class below you for like powerlifting or something like that or weightlifting, then why would you cut?
Mm.
Like I understand if you want to, get stronger, so you go up a weight class, or you want to maybe like, do a little bit better on, events that require better conditioning, so you go down a weight class. But just saying like, you know what, screw it, like I'm gonna compete at a lower weight class because that's what everyone does. Like that's a dumb response. So yeah, like I just don't see very much merit in cutting weight, but that's just me.
No, that makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Just like it's like unnecessary stress as well, like on the body and like just like also mentally and physically or physiologically. There's just, but yeah. But yeah, I definitely agree with you. Like I'd say, like especially for combat sports, it's like where like you kind of need to make weight. Um, like I do agree with you. Like if they could like just live in the optimal weight that they need to be in, like consistently. But I feel like at the same time though, when say you had a fight and then it's just like this is like you can just like relax a little bit. I feel like it's really like just to be human. You're allowing yourself to maybe drink a bit more, eat some good food that you didn't do, and then like gain a few pounds, and then like, but then it's just also be really smart about it and start pretty early as well, like kind of losing that weight, not really cutting, and like we're talking maybe like let's say 3-4 months out, like knowing or something like that, like kind of just like slowly maybe. Also depends on like how much above you are above the weight like you need to be for that specific fight or sport or whatever it might be.
Yeah, and I mean, and like cutting weight is different than optimizing body composition.
Yeah.
So like, so is losing weight. A friend of mine came and presented at Springfield, like last weekend,
Mm.
and he went into how he thinks like calories in, calories out is kind of a myth, and it was interesting for sure. But like, if you're trying to lose weight, you need to be in a caloric deficit, I think.
Mm.
Uh, but if you're trying to optimize body composition, then like he's entirely right. Like calories don't necessarily like matter. It's more like what you're actually eating and what the fate of the intake and substrate is. So like if you're eating just like a ton of carbs
Yeah.
and you want to be, I mean, like let's say for fighting, like you're probably going to rely heavily on glycogen
Mm.
for combat sport. So like if you're going to eat a ton of carbohydrate, then you should probably be eating fruit. So it actually pushes that, so it's pushed towards storage of glycogen and not just immediate disposal of glucose.
Mm.
So that's just, something, a small rant about, fates of food and like differences in between like actually changing your body composition versus cutting weight.
Yeah. Fuck, there's a question I was gonna ask, but like say something. I forgot what I was gonna ask you.
Oh, great job. God damn Swedes.
No, man, I'm paying attention while listening. That's why. Fuck, man. Uh, fuck was the question? Oh,
Well, great. That was the answer to the cutting question, Eric. Congratulations on getting your question answered on such a high level podcast where one of the co-hosts can't even remember the goddamn questions he's going to ask the other one. Anyways, let's see. What were the other questions? Well, he had another one that was called. He just said peaking for sport, and you know what? Gosh dang it! If you're not in the off season, then you're not peaking for sport. If you're in the in season, then you shouldn't even need to peak for sport. Like volume in season should be so low it's not even funny. Even volume off season should be so low it's not even funny, depending on what kind of sport you're working with.
Mm.
Because just thinking about like the hockey off season, because that's what I know is, it's short, it's extremely short, and then depending on like what level you're at, you're gonna you're gonna get different things to deal with, because like if you have like an NFL off season,
Mm.
like they're not going to practice their sport during the off season. They're already too good at their sport to need to practice it. They're going to practice plays, they're going to practice like simple route running and throwing, but they're not going to practice like something crazy and like wild. But, like in the NHL, they get like 12 weeks off. And they probably won't practice. They'll skate a little bit. They'll work skills in terms of skating, but, they won't actually do hockey for those 12 weeks. They're just going to want to take that break.
Mm.
Like college is a longer break.
Yeah.
And, high school, they pretty much, if they're high level, they'll skate year round. So, like, trying to pick and choose seasons and times to really develop physical qualities versus motor skill qualities of sport is different. But during in season, like, you should really prioritize things that, one, they don't get inside of the sporting environment. So, like, for hockey, right, you should probably prioritize like absolute speed work, power development work, and like plyometric work as well. And then, I mean, really, you wouldn't need to be super invested in any energy system work unless it's the aerobic energy system.
Yeah.
So just kind of thinking about that sort of thing, like that's one perspective. And like, I just think that you need to do your job is to keep these people injury free during the in season. And if you're fatiguing them so much that you need to peak them for a sport, then you're not doing your job correctly. Because that fatigue is it's not necessary. Like in the brief, I can't overstate how brief my time in the NHL has been. But in the briefest time that I have spent in the NHL, like the volume of the workouts on a practice day would make people be like would make them poo themselves a little bit. Okay, the lift wasn't long. It was never long, and like never more than 3 sets on anything. Most of the time it was 1 to 2 sets. Like it looked more like the ACSM guidelines than triphasic training. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
this is also off season or like kind of preseason, like you're talking about.
Preseason.
Preseason, yeah.
Yeah. So it's the time when like motor skill on the ice is actually like the biggest thing, because like if I'm doing my job, like they're skating well and fluidly. They're not at all like fatigued from what I'm doing, or maybe they're a little fatigued from what I'm doing, but like mostly I'm just keeping them like with some semblance of organization to their structure, and they can like still have the motor skill to lift and the motor skill to play hockey, and they can do it well. And that's the biggest thing. So like if you're peaking for a sport, you're not peaking. Like you've already overshot your fatigue limit and you're screwed.
But like, what about for sports, like track and field? Because I feel like there it's like, I feel like that's number one's like also like hard to peak in those sports, because usually they have like different events. Like they'll have during Christmas like indoor events, and then like, outdoors like the something different. Especially like the professionals, like it's even like for them even harder, like. But like, would you even say like they're just like there's no point in peaking in like track and field as well? Because I feel like there's somewhat of a point, maybe like you would like kind of like the major, like that year, like the contest, like we actually need to perform, like you would kind of use the previous ones to as a kind of build it up to like the final one as like a peaking block. But I don't know, like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think sports where things are measured is way different. Like if there's a timer or a stopwatch involved or a distance like thrown or whatever, it's different. Like you can kind of peak that, and like that's a little more like what you should be doing, but still like the fatigue should be coming from either the sport. Like it depends really, I think, because if you have like a really good sport coach who understands a fitness fatigue model, which I don't think many people do, but whatever. I mean, you have some sports where like it's entirely from sport, and there's like zero things you can do outside of sport to fatigue someone. Like with rowing, like all they do is row. They row like 3 times a day, and they're all just like beaten down by the end of the day. And so if you have a weight session that day, you're like, so we're gonna goblet squat. And like you're like, okay, so we're gonna do PRI and then we're gonna goblet squat. And that's gonna be the whole session. And they're just like, great. And so obviously like no fatigue is incurred through, or like very minimal fatigue is incurred through that, you know.
Mm.
So it just like depends. And like same thing with swimming, like they peak and fatigue themselves in accordance with, like they do that with the sport.
Mm.
And like, you know, I think at times like it's just like you need to get the hell out of the way.
Yeah.
Because, you know, several of my friends go to a Division I school for swimming, and just talking with them, like they're in constant pain and constant injury, and I'm like, okay, like can I see your strength conditioning program? Like, would you be willing to let me see that? And they're like, oh yeah, sure. And they send it to me, and I look at it, I'm like, wow, like this is a lot. You know, like they just have a huge session with like poor biomechanics involved, and like you know, and it just like it's kind of crazy for me to like look at. But yeah, you know, and so it's just like differentiating stressors and like kind of playing with that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, yeah, because the thing is also, like there's a team in like Spain, Real Madrid, and like right now it's like they have, I think like 9 players injured. And, you know, like having 9 players injured is like kind of like the same thing. This is like a high level team, you know, we're talking about. And then like for that many players to be injured, like there must be something going on, like because like combining like, and these like because people who are also injured are like the basically the starters or like the people who get the most minutes. So it's like kind of the similar what you're talking about, like these Division I athletes where it's like outside of the sport they're doing like a lot of, you know, much more work in the gym or like with the fitness coaches or like who it might be, or even like training on their own like extra like that. So it's like again like, you know, a little bit also like that thing where it's like, you know, sometimes you want to stay after practice or like do some more like laps or, you know, some more runs. It's like when it's better to just, you know, just call it a day. Like once practice is done, like just go in, change, you know, go do something else like that. And you also did put a really good point I liked where, you know, for example, ice hockey is like where, and then you would work with them like with absolute speed, power and stuff like that. It's like, you know, doing something they don't do in the ring, just because. And it goes for like every single sport. You know, I would even go that. I'd say though, like during off season more, not really during in season, where like off season you have them maybe like say for ice hockey, like then they go and play or like they do some sport that like is demands different, you know, outputs from them. So like they kind of, I don't know, like whatever it might be, just like different motor patterns, and I kind of challenge them in different ways because like otherwise it's like, you know, just being stuck in the same thing and it's like over and over working that thing, and eventually, you know, even if you do take that rest, you come back for next season, you know, you're still beaten up from that, and then you're repeating that same movements, and your body's like still stuck in that spot. Like, you know, you're not really able to move in other ways. You've been loading yourself in different positions, which is really important, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, it just is, you know, it's hard to kind of figure out without kind of like this high level monitoring stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and like stuff that I've tried has been like subjective questionnaires and like that sort of thing. Like if you know, and I don't like subjective questionnaires and like kind of trying to get a trim score out of practices and like just to make sure that I'm doing like what my job details, which is like really, I think, giving someone the physiological ability to perform, and then just kind of hoping they have the motor skill somewhere along the line to perform from the coaching standpoint. And then, you know, kind of just making sure their load is not super high. Sneeze. But, you know, and like there's a bunch of ways to kind of take load. Like Buddy Morris has talked about how he would literally just stand at practice with like one of those like counters and just stare at Carson Palmer as he threw the football, and every time he threw the football, he'd just add one. you know, and then eventually like you could create a data spread that was like, hey, if Carson throws 120 passes during the week, like we're more likely to lose than we are to win. And then take that to the head coach and be like, hey, like look at this, you know.
Yeah.
But if he throws, you know, 100 passes, then we're like a little more likely to win. If he throws 80 passes, then we almost always win. And he doesn't throw an interception, and his arm doesn't hurt after the game.
Yeah.
You know, and like just creating like, and that's simple. You know, that's just like, that's a player load though.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just kind of like same thing.
Yeah.
You know, and,
There's also this thing like where I feel like especially like youth athletes, like the younger ones, it's like where you're like thinking like I feel like all these people like especially Kobe Bryant was just like all about the reps and like the 10,000 hours stuff like that you always read about and hear, where it's like you need to get those reps and like do it actually, but like by you doing that, like, you're almost more likely to get injured and like overwork yourself. Instead, like also a lot of people talk about just like kind of like imagery, like imagining yourself in that position or like doing those things. Or if you do decide like the throwing, like say you do like 5 times, like say for basketball, you do like 3 pointers, like or free throws, five. You really focus on them and do five of them, and then you evaluate like how those were. Really think about them and like really focus on those five, and then you maybe like, do 3 sets. That's like 15 total. That's it. Instead of doing like I don't know 60, 70, 100 free throws, and like really just taking like 15, 20, and really like focusing like the technique, how you're doing it, like everything and that. And I think that's volume wise much better long term, because you might think like this was a really shitty training session, but it's like you have to almost like you have to buy into that, where it's like you believe in the process and you actually, because otherwise it's like you go the home and like you just feel almost you almost feel like shit, and almost maybe you might even hit depression. So it's just like I'm not putting in the work that somebody else is putting in, but like you're putting in like the right work, if you want to say like that, and not like just the work that you can brag about on Instagram or to your friends, like, oh, I just spent 2 hours in the courthouse and I went to the gym and then I went for a run, kind of thing.
yeah, like even I think I think Lee Taft has said this. I think I don't really remember, but that like change of direction, and so much of game just has to do with decision making. Like it doesn't even like have that much to do with like your actual physical quality. It just like has to do with how well you can make decisions,
Mm-hmm.
and then like assuming that you can execute on those decisions well, that's where like sports performance comes into play. But if you can't like, I mean, like I'm like a perfect example, because like I played lacrosse in high school
Mm-hmm.
and middle school and in grade school, like, and I was terrible. Like I was horrible at lacrosse because like I would say I only got like halfway decent like the winter of my junior year, because like I was actually able to make I like there are several reasons that I was cut from the varsity team junior year, okay? But like junior year is when I felt like I was good, because I didn't know how to make decisions for the entirety of my lacrosse experience. Like it was all made very easy for me, and it was like just go to that place with violence and hit that person. I'd be like, great, like that's great. That's how I make these decisions. And it's like in a slide, if you can imagine like a triangle, you can't really see my hands because the stupid computer. But like the top guy, if we were down a man, right?
Yeah.
We had a triangle, right? And there was a guy coming down the field in what's called a fast break.
Mm-hmm.
So he was basically like alone, and all the we had, so it was a 4-on-3. He would come down, the top guy would go engage him, then depending on which way he threw the ball, the right or left guy would engage him, and then the right or left guy would then do something called a slide to go cover the guy who just attacked the second ball carrier,
Mm-hmm.
original man. So like it was all just it would go like this, and then this. So it was like, it was a big chain of events, which like hopefully you held off the guys until the backup arrived.
Yeah.
And like that's I was fine with slides, but then it got to like the varsity level, and it was then like it's called who's hot. So like who's going to be the first guy who slides, no matter what. And like so they would pass around the ball, and then all you'd hear is, "Hey, I'm hot, I'm hot, I'm hot," and then they would pass the ball again, and a different guy would be yelling, "I'm hot, I'm hot, I'm hot." And the entire time the ball was going, I'm like, dude, I have no idea if I'm hot or I'm like just standing here right now. Like I would just be like looking around, like, who am I supposed to hit? I don't know. Oh, the ball, like my guy has the ball right now, slashing. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like I couldn't make a decision.
Yeah.
But junior year, like I had actually, like by then I had actually like lifted enough weight to be fast, or like at least put force into the ground, so
Yeah.
I could like go in a direction like semi quickly and violently. But I like could never make the decision fast enough.
Mm.
So it's like you need both to be good at a sport.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, right, and like that's why I was like semi okay at wrestling. It was like I had actually learned what to do in a sport, and then I could analyze like what I should do quickly.
Mm.
Of course, I was underweight by about 45 pounds for the weight class I was in, and not nearly strong enough to like really go. So like that's why I was like decently okay.
Yeah.
And so it's just like a beautiful mixture of like lacking one aspect.
Mm.
And so it's like that's what sport is, I think.
Yeah.
It's just defining and then limiting that aspect.
Yeah, but especially like, the higher up you go, it's like it's all about, as you said, you mentioned the decision making. That's like the biggest difference that you notice, going from high school to college, from college to pros or semi-pro, whatever. It's like just that people are still doing the same thing, but there's like making decisions faster, and it's just going much quicker. Like compared to just like take for example, like ice hockey. They just say that like you're in the pros, like you're spending like already much less time on the puck, and you're kind of like already thinking like, okay, my man's gonna be here. Like you kind of know where everything is like that. It's like just going like much faster, but that's like a thing that's like I feel also like takes some like confidence in yourself. Like you have to like believe that you are able to like and like trust in your gut. Like say that you believe that okay, if I get the fuck here, I can like take on my man and like take a shot or something like that. So it's like also a lot about believing in yourself, because if you don't, then like no matter how fast you can think or like make decisions, like you're not gonna like go through with them, or even if you go through, you're like hashtag and guessing yourself, and you're gonna mess up and probably lose the puck or the ball or whatever it is. They can take it, counter, and maybe probably score, and then you lose the game, and then you might get blamed for that, and it's like it's gonna eat you away, and that's not a good thing at all. And it's just like, well, yeah, but basically, like it all comes down to confidence at the end of the day. Like no matter the level, just like because you're gonna screw up, no matter the sport, but just like still believing that and that's like what you know, is like the distinguishing factor between like the best of the best and like the ones that are just great or like good. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's what they talk about. Like I think that's what they're talking about when they say like it's difference in the speed of the game or whatever. Like
Yeah.
in the NFL they say that all the time, where it's like, oh, we're just getting used to the speed of the game. And it's just like I think that the Amazon documentaries like what's it called? All or Nothing is so good. If they have like a good team, I think the Arizona Cardinals are the best
Yeah.
documentary they have. Like I've told you about this I think a few times before,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like they just game for everything.
Yeah.
And it's like a strict attention to detail and like a strict execution on that detail,
Mm.
and it just shows like this is what a high level player does.
Yeah.
and like knowing where everyone's going to go before they get there. And it's just like that's that's the speed of the game. It's like
Yeah.
college isn't just, it's not just athletes like running around being athletes,
Yeah.
or college it like could just be like athletes running around being athletes. The NFL is like people who have studied this for as much time as they would have been in school and college,
Yeah.
every week to beat the other team. So like they already know where you're going to go before you get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like that's the speed of the game.
Yeah, I also think like that, I feel like once you reach to the professional level, it's also like people are like they're still selfish, but I feel like not as much because I feel like before you're a professional athlete, like you might be thinking already like at that level like the professionals, like you think making decisions quickly, but like just to pick like for example say soccer or basketball or like kind of one of those sports, like you're still like on the ball more than you should be because you're trying to like make all the points to like score the goals, like win the game for the team, so like that way you're gonna get the highlight spot, like then you can make that step into a professional setting because like once you're there, because like once you're there, it's like you don't need to do it as much kind of thing because like now it's like more about the team than actually about you because I feel like once you take that step into the professional setting, it's like okay, now I'm here, like you want to stay there, like by staying there is by actually playing for the team. Because if you start doing that shit in the professional setting, like they're gonna, fall out immediately. Like, that's just like I might be completely off with this. Like I haven't like played at that high level, but I feel that's kind of like how it is, like especially like looking at people who are like semi-pro below, like and they want to make the pros. It's like they like spend too much time on the ball, like kind of almost wanting to do too much when instead of like doing less than what they want to do is actually gonna give them that like spotlight because they're gonna see like all these guys like thinking ahead. He's like well all these others just like running around like trying to do all these things. Like he's actually like playing it simple, quick, looking at like understanding the game and it's going fast. And I think that's like it's also maybe a mature thing. It's like you wanna maybe impress their friends or come to the game or like the girls or like the girlfriend or something like that. So it's like a little bit of that as well. You gotta like put that aside as well when you're playing the game. But yeah,
All right. I think we killed that. All
yeah,
right.
we definitely move on.
Uh,
I feel like we kind of maybe went like detoured a bit to be
yeah, we
honest.
definitely did. All right. So what's the next
So,
question? I don't even remember what the hell
you
it is.
got the questions, man. I have no idea what the next.
Okay. Overtraining versus overreaching. That was also Eric Hogan's question. Okay, so overtraining is, I don't know why he asked this. I'll be really honest with you, okay? Because this is in every textbook everywhere. And you know what? I'm not going to answer it because it's in every textbook everywhere. There's a very clear differentiation. And yeah, that's look at a textbook, to be really honest with you. I'm not here to be your goddamn textbook, all right? I'm here to be your entertaining host. Um,
Honestly, fair enough.
I thought you silenced your phone.
I did silence my phone. I don't
You
understand.
idiot.
Like the heck, yo! I don't even know how that showed up, but yeah, okay.
Okay, so yeah. So overtraining versus overreaching. Read a textbook. That's my answer.
Great answer.
Uh, I mean, like, if you want to read a textbook about this, here you go. I'll even give you some textbook. Super training. Uh, whatever that Zassiorsky textbook is that I can't remember the name of right now. Anything that Juggernaut Training Systems writes. Ow. Tudor Vampa. Like, literally anything that any of these people write, like you're gonna get something out of. So there you go. You're welcome. Then I think the final question of the day comes from my dad, which is he wonders how to optimize the myotatic response, which is really just the stretch shortening cycle.
Mm.
So there are two parts to the stretch shortening cycle: the musculotendinous unit. Well, that's all the part. The musculotendinous unit, right? So there's the tendon and the muscle.
Mm.
Within the muscle, there are two parts. One is the parallel elastic component, and one is the series elastic component. The parallel elastic component runs with the muscle, So it's like in parallel to the muscle. The series elastic component is the tendon, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually not the tendon. It's kind of the sarcomeres as they're stacked together because they're in series with each other. The parallel is actually just running like next to the sarcomere. So like the parallel elastic component is just basically your any like fiber, like so the extracellular matrix that stretches within the fiber. I actually kind of think that like this very specific part of myosin actually has to deal with this. Like titin is one of them. If you're looking at like heart muscle, intercalated discs, that's kind of part of it. You know, I don't think they're called costomeres. Maybe it is costomeres. I don't think I'm right with that though. But basically, like anything that is elastic within the muscle is part of the parallel elastic component. The series elastic component is basically like the force generation by the muscle itself.
Mm.
And then obviously there's the tendon. God damn it, Artie. Let me see. So the fun thing is, if you're really interested in this, then Dr. Keith Baar, Baar, Max Schmarzo, I don't know how to say his last name, and Jake Tura, Tuura, are all really into tendons, especially Jake Tura. But basically, if you move fast, right? So like, let's say you're going to do a pogo hop, which to me is just like that jump where you just like hit the ball at your feet and you're jumping really quickly. Then you're moving extremely fast. Obviously, there's short ground contact time, and the tendon shortens rapidly. So the tendon actually becomes kind of stiff and like non-pliable. If you're moving slowly, then the tendon is getting a lot of force transmitted through it, and it becomes very pliable. You look like you're about to fall asleep right now. It's great.
Dude, I've slept like 5 hours, so I'm like struggling.
Good stuff. I'm just gonna keep going because this is the stuff that just puts people to sleep.
No, man.
Oh, man. So that's kind of the parts of this whole thing, and like kind of very general responses to the tendon, different kinds of training. There are ways you can actually optimize this. So Cal Dietz talks about the Golgi tendon organs, the GTO. It's kind of basically like if this right here is your tendon and this is your muscle, then it's like right in here. It's like between the muscle and the tendon. So basically, if I'm squatting really heavy, that's going to sense how much force is being applied to the tendon. And if there's too much force being applied, then it sends a signal, an afferent signal, back up to my brain, which comes back down. There are several pathways involved. There's like the pyramidal tract, the rubrospinal tract, and there's one more, I think, and the corticospinal tract or something like that. I don't remember which one has the Golgi tendon organ in it. I'm sorry, Dr. Lewis, but I'm gonna just throw a guess out there. I think it's the rubrospinal tract. Really not sure. If that's right, though, I'm gonna freak out. So basically, it comes back down in an efferent signal, and the muscle relaxes so that the tendon doesn't tear. Now, with eccentric training, the force put through the tendon is so high that you can actually basically desensitize the Golgi tendon organ, so it's less likely to send an inhibitory response to the muscle. Therefore, your muscle can exert more force and be less likely to send like we're gonna blow up to the brain. Then on the other hand, there are so like that's really a big way that you can optimize like both the myotendinous response is through the GTO. Artie, don't look like you don't know this because I know you read triphasic training. Then the other thing is that you can let me see. There's then the other thing is a muscle spindle, which I swear to God, if you don't know this, you didn't even go to Palone's class. What's the muscle spindle, Artie?
Like, what do you want me to say? Like, what it
Oh,
does?
you know what else? You know what else about the GTO? I
Mhm.
want everyone to know that the GTO involves type 1B afferent fibers. Okay, the muscle spindle involves type 1A afferent fibers. Just so we're aware, there's a
Like,
differentiation.
do you want to explain like difference in like like?
Maybe it's type 2B. Fudged up. What are type 2s?
Are you sure about that as well?
Huh?
Are you sure about that? Like the type 1A, like what was it? Like the muscle spindle.
No. It's not muscle fibers. It's the actual afferent
Yeah.
fibers. I think type 1A is a motor neuron. I think type 1B is the muscle spindle afferent fiber, and I think type 2 is the get there faster brain, the GTO. That's what I'm going with. Again, I took this class a long time ago, and I don't really remember. So, whatever. Okay, I have a very poor memory right now. Like whatever.
Oh, okay. Let me just go back. So,
Okay, go back.
no, we're talking about like the GTOs.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm confused. Like I don't know. I don't know if you maybe confuse yourself as well a little bit with this, but like, what you basically just said, like these like last 2 3 sentences, like if you could like summarize that maybe like or
I will summarize it in a few ones with these. Okay.
okay.
In a nutshell, there are several different kinds of afferent motor. Wow, Jesus. There are several different kinds of afferent neurons that go from the muscle to the spinal cord and brain.
Yeah.
There are type 1, type 2, and type 3 and 4. Type
Okay.
3 and 4 sense like metabolic buildup and are like the pain regulators of muscle cells.
Okay.
I believe type 2 has to do with the GTO, and type 1A is the, well, it wouldn't make sense for the goddamn motor neuron because it's an effort. Jesus, dude. Okay, let's go with type 1A. I'm going with type 1A as the muscle spindle.
Okay.
1. I don't remember what type 1B is. Whatever. There are a lot of different neurons, okay?
Okay.
And I'm not very good with numbers. So, whatever. Muscle spindles, Artie, what do they do? Bring us home.
But do you mean like just in general what to do?
Yes. You know what? Type 1B
You
has
know.
to do with the it's the intrafusular capsule. That's what it is. Oh, that's the one that contracts. Oh, there we go. Let's go. All right. I got it now. Okay, we're good. We're good. Dr. Lewis is not going to kill me.
Honestly, if Dr. Lewis watches this podcast, like
She's
I
a
don't know.
saint. She would watch this podcast.
Dude, honestly, though, like, are you taking one of her classes this year or no?
No, I'm not.
Oh, well, you should tell her about this. Like, she should check it out.
Nope.
Next thing you know, you the entire exercise science department watching it, like fucking O'Neill, KO.
So there's a professor now that you don't know. His name is Maris, Dr. Maris. He's a really nice dude actually. And so he has decided to bring the exercise physiology department into the 21st century by making an Instagram. And so he like told everyone in his classes to follow the Instagram. So I followed the Instagram because I'm a follower. And then like
So
the next day I come in
that's what you're saying, huh?
yeah. And then the next day I come into his class and he's like, yeah, so we follow back. And then like that night I get a follow request from the SC Exercise Physiology account. I'm like, nope. There is no chance I'm risking Maris seeing these podcasts, man.
Yo, why not though?
I don't know. I just have a feeling he's gonna come in and just laugh at me. But anyways, seriously, muscle spindles, man. What do they do? Come on. What kind of sensation do they like what do they sense?
Well, like they sense like the length of the muscle, like like the shortening of the muscle, like the lengthening of the muscle, basically. That's like Wait, am I wrong? Am I wrong on this? Or like no? That's right though.
Use 20,000 miles an hour. Okay. They sense the lengthening of the muscle at velocity.
Okay, yeah.
So then they send, right? So then through their type 1A fiber, they send that up to the spinal cord, or type 1A. I think I kept saying fiber. That was the issue. I mean neuron. Type 1A neuron.
Yeah.
Up to the spinal cord, comes back down. The muscle actually contracts, which I believe that's what type 1B, that's its job, is to contract the intrafusal like cage. I don't remember like what it's kind of like just where the muscle spindle resides, and it's just supposed to contract that. That's its job. Final answer. Here we go. Just my memory is not ironclad right now, but whatever. Then the muscle contracts. So really, optimizing the stretch shortening cycle comes down to those two things, like how stiff or relaxed your tendon is, and how well you're able to kind of inhibit the GTO, and where how sensitive your muscle spindle is, pretty much. So you're welcome, Dad. But no, because that wasn't like a very good response. Because it's like it's dependent on sport. Because like, so my dad's a big hockey guy. Okay, huge shock. His son is somehow in hockey too. I don't know. It's the weirdest shit ever. But so if you're playing hockey, right, the ground contact is so long that you like don't need a stretch shortening cycle. It's kind of funny. Like you can so one of the ways to like compare how dominant you are to like a just a stretch tendon response, and how dominant you are like using a muscular strategy, which is pretty much just like creating force with like all muscle and not using a stretch shortening cycle at all, is you can do a hands on hips just vertical jump, and with counter movement, and then do a non counter movement vertical jump. So you can kind of tell, like, am I more able to produce force with everything, or am I more able to produce force with just my muscle? And I don't remember the actual number, but I think if like it's a bigger than like 5% difference one way or the other, then you can kind of direct training to either being more stretch shortening cycle dominant or more like muscular force dominant. And then there's another way to do it, I think, in my head, which is it's kind of the concept is from an iFast book that I do not remember the name of because I read it like 4 years ago. But it's basically, the concept is like you're either a gorilla or you're a kangaroo. And so gorillas are able to produce a lot of force really slowly, and you're able to just like grind through lifts and be a savage, but you can't move very fast, and you're not very good at like an elastic response type thing. And then kangaroos are able to produce a lot of like elastic force, but they're not really that able to produce force past like a certain speed. So like if we were measuring, like I kind of think you're a kangaroo. I'm not going to lie to you. So if we were like measuring the speed at which my deadlift fails versus when your deadlift fails, like I could be like barely moving my deadlift and still get it, and you like would have to move your deadlift substantially faster to be able to get it to actually like complete the lift, because you're able to produce force less with muscle and more with elastic components, and I'm more able to produce force with muscle and less for elastic components.
Yeah.
And so that's done through a force velocity profile. So pretty much you just take a lift, you take the velocity of each substantial lift as it goes up and up and up and up and up, and then at some point you find that you're either able to, like, you find like power through the lifts, and you either find that you're able to produce like high amounts of force at like really high percentages of your 1RM, or you have to move really fast to be able to produce force well against load. So yeah, and then you just optimize it for sport. So like, if because I already kind of said something about hockey, like you can go in the other direction for like sprinting. You need to be able to produce. Well, that's kind of tricky because you need to be able to produce force really fast. But like, there are several ways that you can produce force. Like the big one is like Carl Lewis versus what's the other guy's name? Like Ben something. Ben Johnson.
Yeah, Ben Johnson.
Like, I don't remember which one was which, but like one of them was extremely muscular and was just like really, really strong. The other was like not that strong, but really elastic, and both were able to sprint really fast. But so like, I don't even know like what's a sport that requires like a high amount of elasticity, but just like that sort of thing, like that sort of difference.
Yeah, no.
Because you have to use like your Achilles to just like doing right off the ground for.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much everything I got for the stretch shortening cycle. Look at this money. Wow, that's a lot of money.
Is it yours?
Nope.
Are you gonna take it?
Nope.
Why not?
Because that'd be wrong. I have a high sense of morality, unlike some people.
Oh, do you now?
Oh, I do now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Thank you.
I think. Yeah, I have no questions, man. To be honest.
I mean, those were all the questions that I got from people. So
yeah, no, I feel like like we kind of just like went through them pretty nicely, So it's like, yeah, I don't know, like feels pretty good.
Okay, so you know what? I'm kind of sick. So how about you wrap it up? And I'll jump in if I feel the need to say something.
I will, as always, want to thank Declan's dad. I've no idea what your name is, but
Dan.
Thank you, Dan, for being a very loyal fan.
The only fan.
The only loyal. Actually, yeah, the only fan might be actually pretty. But anyhow, thank you very much, and I would like to thank you to, I believe the eight other strangers that I have no idea who you are, but like thank you so much for checking in. Always a pleasure to see some new faces or not to see them, depending on your profile pic. And yes, it's been a great episode. I feel, I kind of zoned out a little bit. That's kind of like per usual if you know me. Yeah, and yeah, I don't know. I have nothing else to add. Just overall a great episode with Batman, and it was good.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to apologize for being sick and coughing and sniffling all the live long day. But if you're still watching right now, thanks. If you have questions for us, send us your questions. Call me out for being totally wrong on the type 1, 2, and 7 neurons related to muscle. Or call me out for saying fibers instead of neurons. I don't care what you do. Call me an idiot. Go for it.
Well, I don't think we should go that far, but
Well, I think they should go that far.
Well, I don't think we should go that far.
I think they should go that far.
I don't think we should go that far.
All right. You know what? I'm just going to leave you to keep on signing off the podcast.
Okay. Well, it's been great. And until next time, Batman's out.